Hello YouTube, RJ Carter here again, and so we actually have a new philosophy about life. It relates back to our very first video about women, the nature of women. And I was watching Alan Watts' video, and there's one of the comments. And the thing about Alan Watts is, like, he says a lot of stuff, and it's a little bit of a dopamine hit. I'm gonna come back to that, but it's very hard to understand. So I was reading the comments, and a guy had the same question. He's like, "What is this guy talking about?" And somebody answered him, and it was like, "Oh, life is all about sex. It's all about sex." And I thought about it. I was like, that is kind of true. And when you really contemplate that, everything we do revolves around sex, especially when you get into the realm of competition. So, the people with the most money, they have access to the most beautiful women. And the most beautiful women, and theoretically speaking, what it is reproduction rights. So if a woman is beautiful, that means she's healthy. She grew up eating good. She grew up eating healthy. She has, voluptuous, chest and bottom. That basically essentially means, she has high value in the reproduction age. And I think it was, the reason people are beautiful is, I forgot, it was a book, but the reason people are beautiful, or women, or even men, is that, like, in the womb, they went through less modification, morphing in the womb. So, and I'm just talking fluff here, but basically, healthy, beauty is equal to health. And it kind of relates back to Anton LaVey, who was saying, like, beauty is strength. So, if you see someone that looks gorgeous, or even they have a great suit, like, if you see a fat guy, but he has Louis Vuitton, this, Gucci, that, diamond rings, he looks like a very promising guy you want to go up to and you want to talk to because he has a wealth, he shares wealth. So essentially, kind of going back, it's all about sex on a certain scale. And if you think about it, it was a great comedy stand-up routine by Eddie Griffin, one of my favorites. And it's like, oh, that's why you go to college, man. That's why you go to college, you get the degree, you get the good job, you get the nice car, you get the house, so you could drive the pussy around, so you could take the pussy home, so you could lavish the pussy, and not to get too vulgar, but essentially that's what it's kind of is all about. The economic gain, and it's one of those ways you could look at life. There's the religious aspect, there's the money aspect, and then there's the reproduction aspect. And it was another comment as well. He's talking about, we should all just go back to the original way we did things, which means, like, club her by the head and rape women, like, as far as the barbaric stages. And you kind of see that in capitalist society, when you get more civilized, it's all about the money, it's all about resources. And so the person with the most resources, and kind of going back to the biblical ways, is that if a man has 4 to 5 wives, and so, but in order to sustain those wives, in order to feed those wives and those children, he had to have some type of wealth, he had to have some type of money, he had to be an alpha male in a sense. So from that, it goes into a lot of realms and aspects. But theoretically speaking, the man who has the most wealth, aka has the most health, because money is energy. So when you equivalent that, and I've kind of seen it too, you can go a day without eating and try to work at your job. It's just not going to work. And so money is energy. So the more energy you have, the more you can expel and go out into the world and spread your energy. And I think that's what we're all doing here. Every YouTube video, every piece of information, every book, every philosophy, every quote unquote cult knowledge, magic tricks, in actual magic, and all this performing, it kind of does give you into the right of going higher into the level of the reproduction ladder. The Sexual Market Value is a great book. I'll mention again about Bachelor of Economics. He's talking about everything is about sexual market value. So how can you increase that? You go, if you enter the self-help realm of the internet, it's all about the no-fap movement, retaining the seed, reading books, meditating, going to the gym, getting a gym membership, wearing nicer, cleaner, better clothes, and all of that relates to improving yourself in the sexual market value. And my question becomes, who is that person? Like, let's say the monk, or the the kid that plays video games, or who's that person that doesn't care about quote unquote money, quote unquote status, or even quote unquote women and sex and raising their sexual market value? Do they have the most freedom? I don't know, and I'm not too sure. But even in realms of the MGTOW and people, going their own way, kind of like alleviate women, there's still that sexual factor because, they're looking at porn, they're waiting for sex robots, there's still that male drive, and it kind of just, relates to, I think Sam Harris was talking about free will, to where, we all are essentially here to reproduce. Or, you could go from the Gnostic standpoint and say we're here to devour each other alive. But on the same scale, we devour each other alive to reproduce, to cultivate some type of, energy, to, expel your seed out into the universe. And it was kind of another video here, and it's kind of funny making these videos. Like, a lot of these concepts, once you start talking about them, a lot of connections start making up. And there's a video. It's basically talking about does it really matter if you have seeds? Like, it doesn't, because you don't remember your great grandfather. If he was standing right next to you, or he was like, you would not know who this person was. And so, does it really matter to have a high sexual market value and to expel your seed and continue on your seed? I would say no. I think what really does matter, however, is that level of, and this is a contradicting factor that I'm going to say, but it's that level of comfort, and I would say luxury. And I would argue, because to me, ideal life is, I'm right now, I'm living in like a rural area. It's not something I want to see. When you have an intellectual mind, when you try to study things, you want to be surrounded by luxurious things. You want to be surrounded by gold, beautiful paintings, other people's artworks, other people's, ingenuity. You want to be surrounded by beauty. And, women are beautiful. I would, you could argue women are, the epitome of, beauty on a certain scale. No painting, no piece of artwork can match that, because it kind of goes back to a quote saying, whenever you look back in time and you look at, paintings, you have to ask, did he get the girl? Essentially stating that artists and people of that realm, musicians, all they're doing is so they could get that girl, and which is kind of true. I mean, arguably speaking, they have the most beautiful woman that there is. And, it's interesting to see, how your subconscious mind, it kind of develops themselves to, to chase the women in the sexual market, because, no matter how you look at it, we are, like they say, we're created equal, so we are men, we are, unless there's something wrong with you, ideally speaking, you want to, procreate, you want to expand yourself. So, how to beat the game, how to cheat the game, I'm not too sure. And going back to the first part of the video, I was talking about Alan Watts and how there's a lot of dopamine hits. And I actually do believe that when you watch these kind of videos, when you get new information, it actually is like a dopamine release. It's a dopamine hit, especially, and I would argue that the whole point of esoteric knowledge and the wisdom and magic and occult understandings is to get that, to open up the third eye, and which basically means, stimulating the pineal gland. And so, when you stimulate the pineal gland, you release DMT, and DMT is that molecule that essentially gets you high. It gets you high. And relating back to the what a Christian video was saying about Joe Rogan. When Joe Rogan, when you listen to his podcast, it's an experience. And so essentially, he talks about all these concepts of, we're apes and we evolved from this, and the universe is infinitely expanding upon structures of manifestation that dwell onto realms of unexistence where other entities and realms and, spiritual beings live, and you get to cultivate and get to interact, and we're here for an infinite moment of time, and then we disappear into nothing, but then again we came from nothing. So are we really alive right now, and what is really going on, and who really knows? And so that example right there was me unconsciously just speaking things, and I think that's the trick to having that little dopamine release to essentially plant when you eliminate and stuff like that, and you actually go into a stream of consciousness, a stream of speaking, you release dopamine dopamine hits. And especially with the occult knowledge, every time you get a new piece of information, it goes at your cognitive bias, it goes at your your mental capacity, and you get new information. It's a dopamine hit, it's a dopamine release, you make new connections and what have you. And I think that's what it's all about. That's the scale from I get from Alan Watts. And relating back, if you can provide a service, might be all in the same at the end of the day, but if you can provide a service for other people, that's how you live, that's how you expand. And relating back to women, it might just be that we're here to simply, procreate and reproduce. And however you do that, however this reality, back in the old days, you could just go up and physically take over. But now, you gotta do it intellectually and do it mentally. And you kind of get into more artistry form of the whole concept. Until next time, peace.